Hello and welcome back to Bookish. Today I wanted to do a book review of Panenka by Ronan and Hession. This is Hession's second novel. It's really kind of novella length, around 165 pages. You may remember that Ronan Hession was the author of one of my favorite books last year, which was Leonard and Hungry Paul. It made my top 10, and it really was, I thought, just kind of the perfect book for the pandemic right when it was starting in March, because it was, on the whole, a happy and joyful book about two young men who were unusual in their own ways, but who were remarkably resilient and adaptable in ways which surprised the reader and I think members of their families who are also characters of that book. Panenka deals with the damage done to people and the damage people do to people, and how they come to some kind of acceptance, some kind of way of moving forward, how they heal the damage they've created in their relationships. And as such, it probably sounds a lot like a lot of other novels, but to me it wasn't, and it was distinct and it was unique and it was very enjoyable and very enriching. So the title character in the novel, Panenka, commits a very public mistake on the football field. When playing for his hometown team, his hometown is kind of a run down, somewhat down at its heels, I guess those are synonymous, small city whose citizens invest a lot in the success of their football team, and he makes a very public mistake, and he becomes the whipping boy for his community, and that damages him, and he then in turn damages the people he's closest to and the people that he's in relationships with. And the novel, though, here is really not about necessarily that mistake. It's about its aftermath and the relationships that exist between people, the relationship between Panenka and his daughter, between Panenka and his grandson, between his daughter and her estranged husband, between Panenka and the fellas he sits with at the bar that he frequents, and then between Panenka and his kind of middle-aged love interest, I suppose. And all those relationships, I think, are very well drawn, and all of the characters, for the most part, I think are very well fleshed out. And when you think about the number of characters in a book that's this short, that's an achievement. That's an achievement of economy of writing, which I think is somewhat unusual. I think that Hession has a gift for. To me, all the characters in the novel feel real. They all feel like people you might know or have characteristics of people you might know. You get the feeling that Hession knows these people, that he's spent time with these people, and that these are people that are very real to him, because that's kind of what comes through on the page. For me, one of the real attractions of Hession's book so far is his writing itself. His sentences are crisp. I think his similes and metaphors are almost always well drawn and lead to greater insight. He is, I think I said this before in another video, he is a keen observer of the small moments that make up life, those small kind of very human things we do that oftentimes we don't think about. The images he creates, I think, are almost always feel real, and they are occasionally quite beautiful, and the language of his sentences is occasionally quite beautiful. Hession is an Irish writer, and I can't help but think about other Irish writers that I've read and I've loved, and so I would slot Hession's writing somewhere in his style and the character of the stories he tells in his novel. I would slot those somewhere between Roddy Doyle and William Trevor. His characters are funny. His books contain elements of humor, but it's not necessarily the wry, laughing through the pain humor necessarily that you get the impression of from Roddy Doyle. And yet it is not quite the relatively humorless, compassionate at distance feeling you get from William Trevor. Trevor is a beautiful writer of sentences, and he creates very emotive scenes and stories. But you always get the feeling that in some way Trevor is slightly removed from his characters. That doesn't exist with Hession. He is right there, and he is It feels like he's living the things they're living, or he has lived the things they're lived, and he's not just observing, he's living them right along with his characters. So for Hession, his characters are not just, like lab animals that he's observing and recording and feeling for their problems, and they're not just characters to be kind of whose foibles and quirks are to be laughed at and made fun of, even though there's some elements of that. You really get the impression that Hession has laughed with these people, has experienced the pain these people have felt, has extended a helping hand to these people, has watched a football game with these people, has sat in the pub and drank a pint or two with these people. For me, that's really where the novel's strength lies. Hession has a real gift, I think, for describing the lives and the struggles of regular people in a way that feels very real, without ever having to have those regular people do anything extraordinary. These are just everyday, regular lives rendered beautifully and with a great empathy and compassion, and I really think that is the strength of Ronan Hession's work. So, I would like for people to read Panenka by Hession. I think it's a good book. I think I like Leonard and Hungry Paul a little bit better, but I'm still thinking about this one. Anyway, look forward to your comments in the comment section below, and as always, thank you for watching.